to another episode of the Modern Manifestation Podcast. I'm your host, Bree Brown, a lettuce-hating, wine-loving, curses like a sailor, recovering perfectionist. Having thrived in a male-dominated, commission-based industry, I'm passionate about helping women boldly pursue their life goals. In this space, we build confidence with our mindset, manifestation, and spirituality. I believe that your life manifests as a result of who you are, not what you do, and that your personality creates your personal reality. Join this growing community to increase your net worth by increasing your self-worth. Now let's jump into today's topic. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Modern Manifestation Podcast. Today's episode is about my favorite word. This is a word and an exercise that it probably took me several years of going to therapy to really embrace and to fully understand. And this is one of the few methods and one of the few words that I think has entirely changed my perspective and has really given me the ability to have more flexibility with myself and more self-care and more compassion for myself as I work through a lot of the healing modalities, a lot of the healing processes that we talk about in this podcast. So, what am I talking about? Today, my favorite word is the word and. A-N-D. I cannot tell you how much freedom this word has given me. It's such a short word, and it is such an important word. And when I say that this word has given me so much more freedom and self-compassion, I'm not exaggerating. And here's why. I spent years self-shaming. And I would always start off conversations in therapy or in coaching sessions or with friends and say something like, I know I'm doing all of these really great things, but... And then I would go into all the things that I was not doing. I would say but and contradict all of my efforts that I just listed. And it took a couple years until my therapist started calling me out on it over and over and over again. And I'm so thankful that she did, because what I began to notice is that the habit of saying but and then disqualifying all of my efforts was not just something I said, it was something I believed, and it was something I practiced regularly. And every time I said the word but, it was loaded with self-shame. It was loaded with all the things I knew I should be doing and was not doing. So I was using the word but to take away from my small wins. So instead of focusing on what I was doing right, I was focused on what I was doing wrong. And that's what this subtle shift can help you do, is to shift your perspective onto the part of the sentence you want to be focused on, the positive. And when we started talking about this simple word, and I started rephrasing those previous sentences, it would go from, I know I'm doing all of these things, but da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all the things I wish I were doing. Then it changed and started to look like, I know I'm doing all of these really great things, and I would like to be doing this, this, and this. You can think of it like the word but is subtractive, and the word and is additive. One contradicts and one complements. The word and leaves room for self-acceptance and awareness without the guilt. And this is the antidote for the word should that I've talked about in the past, shoulding all over yourself. You think really great things, but, and then you contradict those efforts. Very different energy. And it makes a huge difference on your mental health. Because when you include the word and, it gives yourself permission to hold two opposing things. It gives yourself permission to live in the gray area. It gives yourself permission to say, I'm doing all of these wonderful things, and there are so many other things I would like to do for myself. And it's okay that I'm not doing it all right now. So it feels like more of a choice as opposed to something to be shameful about. So that's why I want to talk about my favorite word, and, because not only in a therapy session where you're talking about the things that you're doing, but I also think it's an incredibly valuable word in today's socially and politically driven climate. And the reason I think this word is so important, especially when we're having day-to-day conversations, is because I think we have forgotten that you can believe two opposing things. And the word "and" is what binds those things together. Using the word "and" creates space for two people to respect one another's views while discussing really hard topics. And using the word "and" can be a great tool for effective communication, to see the other person even when you don't agree. So as an example, let's say that you are reviewing a recent project with your boss, and as a part of their feedback, they could say, "Hey, you know what? I think your presentation was very informative, but we could work on your delivery." What happens in your mind when you hear that "but"? Everything they said prior to that just goes out the window. You immediately feel the dread. What are they about to say now? Anything positive that they had just said is now negated, even if they spent several minutes complimenting you. The "but" ruins that moment. And it doesn't matter if it's a boss or if it's yourself doing that in communication, either internally or externally, that dread still happens, even if it stems from self-shaming. However, let's say that that same boss in your debrief said, "Hey, I think your presentation was very informative, and we could work on your delivery." Do you notice that subtle difference? You're then able to perceive the entire sentence for what it's meant, as opposed to just focusing on that latter half of it, the "but." And there's a very different energy involved with both of those. The word "but" can be dismissive, and the word "and" is inclusive. The word "and" allows us to hold two seemingly opposing views. We don't have to live in that black and the white. It's not this or that. So I hope this example kind of helps paint this picture a little bit for you. The difference in the energy, the difference in the feeling, the difference in the self-shaming or the dread that you might experience when you're using the word "but" as opposed to "and." And when we use words like "but," or we use those opposing words, it makes it harder for us to have conversations with each other as well. So not only is the word "and" super helpful for conversations with ourselves and having self-compassion for ourselves and giving us more freedom to hold two opposing things, it also can make social contexts so much healthier. Because when we normally talk about really hard issues or really politically charged issues with someone and we disagree with them, how many times do you find yourself using the word "but"? I hear your perspective, I hear what you're saying, but, and then you go into how you feel on the matter, which completely contradicts what they just said. Okay, I agree with some of that, but it's kind of like, to the other person, it feels like you're getting on your soapbox and you're about to preach to them. It feels very different, as opposed to if you hear what they say and then you say, "Okay, great, I hear what you're saying, and what about this perspective?" It will be received differently. Otherwise, it sounds like we're gaslighting the other person, or that we're not willing to have a dialogue. So, this is when the word "but" becomes oppositional, and you're then telling that person, "I don't stand with you. I am here to preach to you my beliefs. I'm not seeing you. I'm not hearing you." And so this is when my favorite word "and" can come into play and to change the conversation. The word "and" allows us to be able to see other people's experiences without opposing them, without trying to gaslight them. And that's what I think is so special about this word. It does start to change the conversation in a very small, micro way. And when we can start using this word "and" more, it really has ripple effects into everything else. So I think embracing this word "and" is going to really help us with our own mental health, allowing us to be more calm and compassionate and nurturing toward our inner child, toward ourselves as we heal, allowing us to live in these gray areas where we can be working really hard, and we could also use a break, where we could be doing all of these wonderful things like meditating and journaling and manifesting and visualizing, and we also just want to watch Netflix today. And we can be working out and eating healthy and doing yoga and doing breath work and everything else. And then we can also go to McDonald's. You're not shaming yourself. You're not taking away from all of the good things that you've done. You're saying, "I am human. I did these things and I did these things. And it's okay that those things contradict one another, but they don't cancel each other out. I still did all those really great things. And you're human. You're allowed to do things that maybe aren't so great for you every once in a while. If you're not, you're probably not living to your fullest, right? I'm kind of kidding. And is a beautiful word. Allow yourself to embrace that. And allow yourself to embrace this word and whenever you're having conversations with other people. Allow yourself to see them, to hear them, to get to know their experiences without trying to bypass them by saying, but I just don't agree with you, but I just don't do this. What if we started replacing that word in these politically charged conversations with and? What if we met conversations with other people and said, I hear what you're saying. I'm listening. And have you ever considered this perspective? Not but, have you considered, and have you considered this? Additive, not subtractive. Inclusive, not dismissive. And since we're talking about effective communication, this is a quick little tip as well that will help with all of this in communication styles with another person. Also, focusing on I statements as opposed to you statements will be super helpful in creating healthy relationships. So if you're ever in a situation with someone else and it's a very charged situation, there's a lot of emotions involved, focusing on how you're feeling and the story you're telling yourself as opposed to how the other person is making you feel. That will help them be less defensive and their guard will come down. So, hey, I'm feeling sad right now. I am feeling angry because this is the story that I'm telling myself about what's going on. As opposed to, you did this, you said this, you never blah, 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 blah. Very different. I statements versus you statements will change the conversation dynamic, as well as using the word and as opposed to but in a lot of these conversations. So that's a little extra bonus tip for this episode. And I'm definitely not saying this is going to fix all of our social issues. God knows that would take more. But I think the small little movement can start to make a big difference within ourselves, within society, with one another. So if you hear your friend using the opposing word but, and they're using it as a tool to self-shame, feel free to call them out. Say, hey, how about we replace that but with the word and? How does that feel? How does that sit within us? So that is my favorite word. Thank you guys for joining me today. This is a small little tip, a small tool, but I swear it makes such big ripple effects throughout your life. And I can't tell you how many things I've actually gone ahead and done because I allowed myself to sit in the and. I'm really tired today, and I would like to do 2 minutes of a workout. Or I don't have a lot of free time today, and I'd really like to take 3 minutes to meditate anyway. I did all these really healthy things all week, and I had Whataburger. So I hope this information is helpful for you, from my therapist to you. And I'd love to hear how this might be helping you shift your mindset, even in the subtlest of ways. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. Until then, go out there and manifest some miracles. I hope y'all enjoyed today's episode. If you want to check out the show notes, head over to www.themodernmanifestation.com/blog. If you're loving this podcast, please drop me a review, share this episode with a loved one, and follow me on Instagram @modernmanifestation. I love y'all so much, and thanks for listening.